Everyone listen up. This is important. I just found out that our politicians are lying to us. Oh, no one seems surprised. Maybe I should be more specific. They're lying when they say that it's more expensive to build good public transit instead of a freeway. See, all around the world, more and more people are seeing amazing infographics like this one, which is causing them to go and ask their cities for more public transit. But when they do this, they get bombarded with the same old comments. It costs too much to build. It costs too much to run. More freeways are the best way to stick to our budget. But what if everyone is wrong? Or, more accurately, they're all brainwashed by oil and gas companies who want to keep selling gasoline. Lately, I've been taking the train to work, which means that I've had a lot of free time. So I found this study which has real-world numbers for an area of LA, and I combined those numbers with a lot of math. So now, I'm going to prove to you that good public transit not only is less expensive to build, but it's also less expensive to run for every year once it's built. Hi, I'm Nathan, someone who's all out of money to throw at bad car infrastructure, and this is Save Money, Save the Planet. First, this conversation may seem like an open and shut situation. After all, we know that the 5 cost $6.75 billion in 2020 dollars to build, which equates to approximately $4.8 million per mile, while recent light rail projects have cost up to $240 million per mile. But I promise, I'm not some crazy person in front of a whiteboard trying to prove some conspiracy theory. No, not at all. 'Cause I have a YouTube channel. The main thing that's happening with the road is that the majority of costs are being externalized to citizens, which means that they're not showing up in this number. Cost externalization is a common phrase used whenever businesses offload negative costs or effects onto a third party in order to maximize their profits. An easy example of this can be a factory which pollutes water or air with its waste, which causes the local community to pay instead. They may end up paying in a variety of ways, whether paying to clean up the pollution, paying for their medical bills, which result from the pollution, or losing value on their homes because no one wants to live there anymore. You know, because of the pollution. But they do pay in the end. See, I knew a guy one time who tried to run down the middle of a freeway without a car. Know what happened to him? Yeah, he's dead. He wasn't very smart. But my point is, building a freeway doesn't instantly allow everyone to travel at 60 miles per hour. They have to buy a car first. And that is how we know that cost is being externalized to us citizens. So, what we need to do here is look at the true cost of building a freeway versus the true cost of building a light rail so that we can choose the option which has the lowest true cost for our society as a whole. Alright, now let's get into that study. This study encompasses 4 main regions which use the 5 in order to get just about anywhere that they need to go: Santa Clarita, East San Fernando Valley, Burbank, and Glendale. Seriously, check out how awesome this study is. So much data. It tells us what the education breakdown of each region is, how they get to work, and how far they have to go. So the first thing we need to do is figure out how many cars do these regions end up purchasing in order to use the road. I grabbed the number that the study had for any citizens with high school education or better, as well as how many people drive to work alone and how many carpool. So each region seems to have this many cars, which add up to 314,275 cars in total. Now, we need to know how much each of those cars cost to purchase. Luckily, AAA has great statistics telling us that approximately 74% of people tend to purchase their cars used, and some quick searching leads us to know that the average used car is purchased for $22,000, while the average new car is purchased for $47,000. Alright, I'm not going to tell you what the final number is yet, because I got this big reveal planned for later. I'm going to show both numbers at the same time. It's going to be cool, trust me. Hey, wait, who put that there? No, get it down! You're ruining the video. The big reveal was going to get them to hit the like button. Alright, fine. So yeah, that's the number. Let's move on to the light rail. We need to keep in mind that simply building a light rail isn't the full cost either, because you need to buy trams to put on that rail. Light rail trams must be top secret or something because I could not find the cost of one. So instead, I looked up the cost of a train locomotive, which is $6 million, and a similar train line that runs along the same route has 30 trains in 2019. Now, for that big reveal that somebody ruined. We take the cost per mile for each scenario and then add the cost of the vehicles to it, and we find that it cost us $9.1 billion to build this freeway versus only $8.5 billion to build the light rail. So we saved $500 million. Fireworks, confetti, hordes of people weeping at the majesty of it all. Big reveal. Hey, screw it, you know what? You can still hit the like button if you want. That's money which we can instead invest in building bus, bicycle, and walking infrastructure, which enables citizens to get to the light rail stops and actually use the system. I don't know about you, but I love the idea of my local area saving that much money to spend on things which we need. At the same time, there would be massive space savings from building 2 light rail tracks instead of a 12-lane freeway, and not building all of the gas stations, maintenance shops, parking garages, and just all that junk that's needed in order to prop up a car infrastructure. So instead, we get to use that space for other things like housing, farmland, rewilding, parks, solar panels. The list, it's just endless. Oh, and don't worry if you're one of those weirdos who thinks that giant, blocky, gray parking garages help make our cities look beautiful. I'm sure we can manage to leave 1 or 2 up, just to keep you happy. Even when something is built, people love to claim that it costs more annually to use public transit than a freeway. After all, for public transit, you need to hire conductors, fare collectors, janitors, maintenance techs, and a ton of jobs. But a freeway, it's just always kinda there, right? Unfortunately, this is another instance where the majority of the costs are being externalized to us citizens instead. So, let's roll up our math sleeves, put on our math caps, grab our math pencils, and, hopefully you picked up on the hints by now, let's do some math. Firstly, we need to know how much the regular road maintenance will cost. That's pretty well studied, and $28,000 per mile per year seems to be a fair estimate. Next, we need to account for maintenance on all of those cars that citizens had to purchase in order to use the freeway. Luckily, AAA has great data on this, and they tell us that $792 per year is a good number. Now for the hardest part, fuel. The study that I told you about earlier has great data on how far people tend to commute in each of these areas, but it's in a range. In order to keep things simple, I calculated everything assuming that the groups traveled the following distances: 10, 20, 35, 50, and 60 miles. It's a fairly easy calculation as you can see, but you just have to do it a lot. You take the commute distance and you multiply it by 2 so that it's round trip. Then you multiply that by the number of people performing that commute. Then you multiply that by 5 days a week and multiply that by 50 weeks a year. Then you divide the whole thing by 36 miles per gallon, which is the average MPG that a car in 2019 was getting, and then you multiply that by the 2019 average gas price in California, which was $3.674. Okay, I guess I might as well tell you what the answer was before someone What? Really? I'm literally halfway through telling them. You couldn't wait 1 more second. Fine. The answer is $630 million. That's how much money this little sliver of LA spends in order to use the 5 for their commute on an annual basis. Math. So we figured out how much it costs to use the freeway, but we need something to compare it to. By looking at the official numbers reported to the National Transit Database, we can find out how much the city of LA spends on its bus and light rail services. And this seriously includes everything. We have salaries, paid leave, fringe benefits, service costs, fuel and lubrication, tires and tubes, utilities. I mean, it's like a candy shop for data nerds. Now, we could try to divide this number by ridership or total passenger miles or something else, but let's actually just pause for a second. Because the total cost to run the whole light rail and bus service in the whole city of LA is only $441 million. And don't think that I didn't notice that the salaries are missing for buses. I'm assuming that for some reason they're lumped in with the county bus salaries. So you know what? Screw it. Just toss the whole thing in there. Now, we're at a cost of $654 million, which is almost the same as what this small group of people spends on their commute. Actually, let me put that a different way. This tiny group of people spends almost the same annually in order to use their freeway that the whole city of LA spends in order to use its light rail and bus services. And just to put it a third way, we could build a light rail for less money than a freeway, and then we could run a whole city's light rail and bus service in 55% of the square footage that it currently runs in for the same or less money that it would cost us to annually commute on a freeway. Oh shoot, I forgot to do the big reveal. Okay, here we go. Fireworks, confetti, applause. Hey, toss in a marching band. Oh, okay, no, marching band's too much. Take that back out. Yeah, there we go. So based on all of this, here's my advice to you. Don't let yourself get tricked into having conversations on if public transit is inexpensive enough, because it really is. Instead, when hearing about a new public transit project, just think of it this way. What main roadway is it looking to replace? How many lanes is that roadway? If it's not replacing a roadway, is it working to build more connections to existing public transit which does? Use this infographic in order to ensure that the public transit being proposed has similar capacity to what the road already has. If the answer is yes, then support that project with every single fiber of your being. And if the answer is no, then figure out which version of public transit is the best option to build and advocate for that one. Or ask your city for more information on why they selected what they did. And if someone still wants to talk about the costs, then just send them this video and then go back to supporting the bejesus out of that project. Because the truth of the situation is, public transit projects do have some really serious problems, which we do need to be having serious conversations about. We need to be working to figure out how we incentivize people to use the system. How do we make it safe, fast, and convenient? How do we keep pace with any explosions and needed capacity that might come up? How do we get it up and running faster? And just tons of questions. Let's have those conversations, instead of wasting more years going round and round talking about cost. I'm not trying to claim that we need to ban cars and have every citizen use public transit 100% of the time. I'll leave that to the people in the comments. But since 80% of the US population lives in urban areas, then we should be able to build robust public transit which enables them to not own a car if they don't want to. That alone would do wonders for our CO2 emissions, while enabling all of our cities to save giant piles of cash, which we then get to decide how to spend. Alright, if you managed to stick it out through all that math, then actually I guess you might have fallen asleep. In which case, I'm offended. Or you're exactly the kind of person who should subscribe so that you don't miss my next video. But until then, I really hope you manage to get out there and make a difference today.